Thank you so much, everybody. Keep it going for Justin and Brad. He was my favorite broken white man. You know? Just damaged, discarded. I like Justin because he says all of like, you know, he gets all like the racism and homophobia out of the way. You know? Kind of softens the blow a little bit. It's nice to see. This is great. There's so many people. There's too many people here. Really. To be honest with you, it's alarming. It's it is nice though, because you know we do a podcast just in my friend's apartment, and I don't really consider that people are listening to the things that I say or think. Hence most of the borderline racism. Because it's like internal monologue. You know, like you go into the kitchen, you stub your toe. You don't mean that about Hispanics. That's just what comes out. You know, you're trying to get to the blender. You don't mean that to happen. But it's nice. I mean, I guess the fear is you do a live show, and because sometimes you get like just like a toad, like a racist toad that's like you're my hero. You know, it's like please don't be whatever that is. You know? It's nice to see normal people here, I guess. Yeah, and this will be. I'm gonna try and do something different, right? Because I've done comedy for a while, but mostly as like a middle, trying to not get fired from clubs. So I want to have something that feels a little bit more personal. So the only way I can describe this will be like, what if Nanette meets Papa John, right? You know? Like a synthesis of those two. If you can have, like, if Nanette got a little too live on a conference call and she got fired from Australia. Whatever she does. Those are my two, that's like my yin and yang, you know? Yin and yang being two racist Chinese characters in my head that dictate all of my actions. It's the two of them together. Yeah, I've been doing comedy for a while, and I pretty much have resigned to. By the way, if you didn't come here because of the podcast, I'm sorry. I just apologize. I wouldn't know what that is, but yeah, I had resigned to being mostly a failure. Most of the success that I could really extract from comedy was being able to witness two comedians start dating and then proceed to destroy their relationship with shitty jokes about one another. That's the thing I got to witness a couple times. It would happen a lot, right? They'd start dating, they'd hook up, and then they would have a conversation, presumably on the futon they were living on, somewhere way out in Bushwick. All the way at the end of the L train, they say to each other, okay, babe, I love you, but we're artists, so the art has to come first. You know, we may say things about each other that are hurtful, but it's only to pursue our art. And then they show up to the open mics and they're like, so my girlfriend's a dumb bitch. That's like the thing I've been thinking about. It's really fucking stupid, I guess. I don't really have a punchline for that. I'm kind of just working on that one still. Oh, this is fun. I love cheating. Have you ever cheated? God damn, cheating. Oh, I'm out of time? Okay, thanks. Love you, Lisa. It's like, man, we all know who you're talking about. You guys cheaters? You got cheaters out here? Who's cheating? Make some noise. It's a lot. It's a lot of them. Personally, I find it to be lecherous, and I think you should die. I think you should be killed. Cut your head off with a sword. No, I don't cheat. I don't cheat at all. Even on people I don't like, I just don't do it. But I do like hiding things. That's fun. I do. I love hiding things. I love having secrets. I ran into this guy I used to lift weights with. He was like, man, you're looking pretty small lately. I was like, I just haven't. But by the way, if you just came to the show to see how much taller than me you are, that's okay. I'll accept that. That's fine. You know? I don't have a problem with that. But yeah, he was like, yeah, you're looking small or whatever. He's like, hey, you remember Enzo, that guy we used to work out with? Yeah, he's a doctor, and he's just been prescribing me steroids. And I was like, let me get your number, dude. Let's hang out sometime. You hang out with Enzo, I guess. And it's like, I don't even need or want steroids, but I would love to have a new thing to hide from my girlfriend. That would be great. That would be great. It's just like, don't go in the freezer. I'll bring you the ice cream. It'd be like a nice thing I could do for you, right? I already got shoulder acne. She won't know, right? They just think it's the regular acne. Everybody loves hiding things. Yes. I don't know if I should be, because I've been having like a mental problem, I guess. Maybe getting a little twisted right there. You can call it that. I have like a little issue with my mind getting fucked up, and I had a couple of friends suggest to me that I try ketamine therapy, which seems like two different options, right? You either become a British DJ or you go to the doctor. You don't combine the two. Either have nightclub fun, or you go see a Jewish guy that can fix your noggin. You know? Which I'm sorry that I pointed that out, but they're the better ones, I think, right? I'm not an anti-Semite. In fact, that's the one type of racism that I really just don't get at all. The other ones, I'll hear your argument, but I'll listen to you. But anti-Semitism doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't. I really don't get it when people are like, well, the Jews control Hollywood. And it's like, and they're doing a great job. Let them. Movies are fucking great. You love movies. You think you're Thor Ragnarok. Let the Jews make the movies. Do you have any idea how fucking bad a Muslim-run Hollywood would be? You want to live in that world? A 7.5-hour epic about a guy that has to hang out in the desert because his wife touched his sword? Boring as shit. Give me the Jew movies. Give it to me. I'll cut the tip of my dick off right now. That means I can see Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson fight a skyscraper. They're coming out with that. There'll probably be a sequel. Give me the Jew movies. I don't care. Or Shatter the Glass or whatever. I'll get married to a loud woman. I don't care. I want to see those movies. Don't understand that type of thing. I guess I just... Unless you're talking about like the ones in South Williamsburg. Those guys are... It's a different breed. Those folks. I was walking around, they have, in South Williamsburg, the Hasids, they have a Hasidic fire department. Which is just, like, I was just imagining them showing up to a fire, and then the fire chief is like, oh, shit. Well, not so much water, Jacob. Maybe a little bit less water. We don't have to use all the water. The fire will probably burn itself out. You don't have to use that much water. It's pretty expensive, that water. That falls somewhere in the middle, I guess. But yeah, I guess I should go to a therapist, right? Those guys, have one of those guys take a look at my head. But I'm afraid, honestly, of going to therapy. You know, it kind of scares me. Because it's never the thing you go for, right? There's always an upsell, you know? Hidden charges, shit like that. It's kind of like going to a mechanic, right? It's basically the same thing as going to a mechanic. You're like, yeah, I got a problem with my Toyota. And they're like, well, for starters, it's not a Toyota. In fact, it's not even a car, it's just a picture of you being molested. It's like, how much is that going to cost? I just thought that we were going to get the oil changed. I didn't know I was going to have to deal with this. Right? Just nickel and dime in over there. You know, I guess the real fear is you find out you kind of enjoyed the molestation because it meant you weren't alone for a second, right? You had a friend. It's the real fear that your entire psyche is just like the last couple of moves of a Jenga game, you know? It's barely being held up, and the bottom piece is an older neighborhood boy's cock, and everything's gone. I also didn't go to therapy for a long time because it was like, you know, cost prohibitive. It's fucking expensive, you know. I didn't have health insurance for a while. And I do think everyone should be able to have health insurance. That should be paid for by the government for free, right? Thank you. I am right. If you want to just applaud me pandering for the next 40 minutes, that could be the whole show. You just do that. But it's like, no, you can get into Six Flags for free if you drink enough soda. You can just show up and be like, I did it, I drank 35 Cokes. They're like, get in there. He's gonna lose a leg on the teacups. He's got diabetes, let him in. I just feel like the hospital should work the same way. You're like, look what I did to myself. And they're like, we'll pay for it, it's fine. You know? But I got enough money to go to therapy now. But I also have enough money to afford the world's fanciest suicide. That's an option. And it should be considered, right? I don't have to throw myself in front of the train like a peasant, right? I could go all out. We'll turn it into a 10-episode reality series. It'll be like an Indian wedding, right? Just a huge suicide, huge fancy suicide with a procession of elephants. I'll be on the main one in the traditional garb, which is a My Chemical Romance shirt, fishnet pants, you know, ready to die. I've got an ornate antique hunting rifle. It's made out of gold, covered in scripture. It's got one of those bell ends like Gaston had, right? And then I just ride the elephants into Dave & Buster's, right? And my jaw's already broken to fit the bell end in there. I'm like, I'm here to die! And then I just blow my brains out in front of whoever is still going to Dave & Buster's. Which is probably just people that don't know you can kill yourself. Right? And then they're like, what did he just do? Barbara, do you see that? There's an option. We don't have to keep playing video poker for the rest of our lives. We can just kill ourselves. And then I've done something for those people. It comes full circle. And I'm a hero in a way. I want to tell you guys a story, and it might be a boring story, which is fine, you know, you gotta listen to me anyways. It's a story in which I'm a victim. And I tell you that because if I make fun of victims later, and you have a problem with it, it's still not really justified. But, rest assured, I've been hurt too. So, maybe just enjoy that, you know? Just remember back to when I was hurt. This is a story that takes place when I was 21. Years old. I moved to Los Angeles, California to burn bridges, mostly, to fuck up my career. And I went out there and I went to the Hollywood Improv, kind of like my second or third night out there. And that's kind of like a big deal, you know? It's a big deal like this is, you know? It's like, it's in a historic club and it's filled with like these famous comics that you admire and respect, and then their pictures are up on the walls, you know? It's like George Carlin and Bill Cosby, and I mean, before. People knew. Nobody cared. This is before we cared about what we did. And then, like, you know, Bobcat Goldthwait and Mitzi Shore's son. And then it, like, descended, but, you know, there was still this, like, feeling of, like, being somewhere important. And I couldn't handle that. I still can't handle things like that. So I immediately had to start just drinking as much as I could. And the last thing I remember is just shaking one of the managers, being like, I'm gonna die out here! And, you know, just embarrassing myself. And they kicked me out. And I came to in the alley behind the club, right? Which, I've gotten drunk enough to get kicked out of bars before. Never in a way where they're like, get this guy out of here. No, with the garbage. Put him back by, take him through the kitchen where he doesn't belong, and throw him out like trash. So I don't know what I did, but I ended up out there with the dumpster. And my plan at the time was to go find my car and drive 27 hours to Montana to attend a taxidermy school I had read about to make bear pants. And what that is you get a bear pelt, you cut off the bottom, line it with a hula hoop, suspenders go over the shoulders, and then you just wear a bear's pants. That was going to be my Shark Tank idea. I don't think Mark Cuban, but definitely the Fubu guy. He would have be on board with that. I think there would have been room in the Fubu lineup for the bear pants. So, if you're wondering why we don't have bear pants, it's because I couldn't find my car that night. And then I couldn't find my car. I got lost even more, and I couldn't find the club. And then I was just wandering around Los Angeles in despair. And somebody pulled up. This guy in a Prius pulls up, and he rolls down his window, and he goes, "Hey, buddy, are you okay? Because you're screaming at nothing." You're screaming at the top of your lungs at nothing. I was like, I had a moment of sincerity. I was like, no, I'm not. You know, I don't have a phone, I don't have any money, I'm like lost. Yeah, this is like a real low point for me. He was like, well, when you get in my car and I'll help you out. And I was like, of course. Why would you not? Get in this guy's car. You can trust strangers to help you in times of need. That's the world we live in. It's filled with good people that never exploit anyone. So I get in this guy's car, and I'm really drunk, and he's like, where do you need to go? And he had a GPS, so I was like, to my car. I thought I could just do that. And then we start driving, and like we're like talking for a minute, I guess. And then I started to get weirded out because I know I parked next to the club and walked to it. I certainly don't remember walking on the highway. So I was like, where are we going? You know? And he was like, we're just hanging out. Just a couple guys hanging out, being friends with each other at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday, right? And I was like, okay, I'm not comfortable with this. I want to get out of the car. And then he starts running his hand up my admittedly basketball shorts, which, not that anyone deserves anything for dressing a certain way, but I had no reason to be wearing basketball shorts. I'm not an athlete. You can't wear basketball shorts in a Kmart's graphics tee and not expect something to happen, right? It's a little bit on me, I'll admit it. And then two, I do think back to the club earlier, dressed like that. They're probably like, should we be serving this retarded guy? Has he had too much, or is this like a chromosome issue? I don't know why he's behaving this way. He's out the trash. So, that guy's pulling my cock out of the bottom of my pants. And then it's succeeding, I guess, and you freeze up in those moments. And I don't mean you get hard, I mean you freeze. And because you don't know what to do, right? I mean, and then eventually, like, I summoned whatever to just bat his hand away, and I was like, man, let me out of your fucking car or else. And or else is he gets to have sex with me. That's it. That's pretty much the end of it. I have no way of defending myself. I don't know karate. I certainly don't know in the car karate. But like weird Jason Statham shit that he knows. Why aren't we teaching people that? That should be, you can defend yourself in those situations or get cast in the Rush Hour remake. They're probably gonna make it. But he pulled over. He let me out of the car. And then as he's driving away, I was like, sorry. I apologize. Because I probably ruined this night, right? You know, you have to be a little bit considerate. I did ruin his night in a way. But I kind of wish he hadn't let me out of the car, you know? Right. For the bit, for the joke. Because it would have been a good joke, you know? Because that's what it's all about, is you experience terrible things and you tell people about it, and it's funny, right? No, I really wish he hadn't let me out, because I can't think of a better way to put a bow on it. I can't think of a better analogy for living in Los Angeles than being violently assaulted in a Prius. I think that sums it up. Is all of the pretenses of helping people while destroying them from the inside. And that's Los Angeles and show business in general. So, me too is my point, I guess. That's all I'm saying. It's me also. Are we far enough in to the Me Too movement that I can point out delicately, without sounding like an asshole, that Me Too is kind of a shitty name? That's it. That's all I want to say. Can we just admit that it's a shitty name? That they should have put more thought into it than Me Too? Because it sounds incredibly dismissive. Imagine you're listening to somebody tell you the worst thing that's ever happened. This unbearable trauma that they'll have for the rest of their lives. They're like, and nobody believed me and the police called me a liar, and then somebody walks in and they're like, oh yeah, me too. Yeah, same. Yeah, been there, done that, sister. Got the t-shirt. It was at the Six Flags gift shop. That's where it happened. That's where the guy who paid to dress up like the Joker. That's who did it to me. Also, I can't hear Me Too without imagining like a sassy gay guy character that's like, me three, you know? Me three, me also, you know? Guy that keeps secrets, you know, you can trust him. There's no way that wasn't already a Will and Grace joke, right? They had to have done that on the new Will and Grace, which I refuse to watch. I won't watch it. It's unrealistic to me. I don't believe that Jack would still be alive. There's no way Jack would still be alive. Right? That's not an AIDS thing. That's not what I mean by that. He's a giant cunt. We're supposed to believe that Jack survived 1990s New York City, going up to strangers being like, I guess the devil wears garbage. It's like, what the fuck did you just say to me? I'm like 110 pounds. You've been stabbed to death on the 6 train, immediately. Also the AIDS, also that. Oh, man. Shout out if you got AIDS, you know. Good luck to you. I'm actually starting a charity. Because with the new tax plan, that's the only way to hide money. You gotta start a charity. It's a charity called Blades for AIDS. And what we do is we buy rollerblades for guys with AIDS. And I know what you're thinking, obvious flaw, those guys already have rollerblades. Yes. I'm aware of that. I've thought of that already. Okay? But as the disease progresses, you lose bone mass, you go down a shoe size, you're gonna need new rollerblades, guys. Okay? That's where we come in, and we're keeping those guys on the boardwalks. To stop Donald Trump. Once and for all. We're going to resist him. You guys part of the resistance? You're resisting him? You gotta, because he's so irresistible, isn't he? He's a big old peanut M&M. I fucking love that guy. I don't give a shit about Trump. I try not to talk about Trump on stage, just because like I don't care. He doesn't, like anything that he could do doesn't affect me. Like all the, like, I'm not gonna wake up and be like, what if he makes cocaine illegal? Like I don't, I kind of just do whatever the fuck I want. I'm worried about the law or consequences or, you know, anything. Like why I avoid talking about it is because he's not funny to me, you know? He's just not, all of these like shithead comedians I'm friends with after the election are like, this is gonna be great for comedy. It's like, no, you'll still be a dog walker without health insurance anymore. It's gonna be pretty fucking bad for comedy. He's not funny to me because he's not inherently funny because he's got too many things going on, you know? It's like why clowns aren't funny. They're like, I got big stupid hair, my clothes don't fit, my car's too small, and you're seltzer. It's like, chill the fuck out, pick one thing. The funny thing is something that's mostly normal with like an off-kit, like a British man with like a googly eye. That's classic. Go that way. Trump's the same thing. He's like, I get stupid hair and I'm fat and I'm also a rapist now. You know what I'm saying? Just do one. Pick one of them. To me, the funniest president would be like just a boring milquetoast white guy from like Connecticut or something, who is like just pretty progressive, whatever, normal, who for whatever reason just spoke with a very thick, inexplicable, traditional Chinese accent. There's no reason for he's like, I believe in America, well, partisanship does not stifle progress. Like, what the fuck? Why is he, I guess I'll vote for him, but I don't know what that is, or who does that. That would be a funny president. Not Donald Trump. Not to me. Let me see if I can. I mentioned Six Flags earlier. I want to see if I can get back there.
What is that for?
In life, I just want to go back to Six Flags. Six Flags is funny because they have a guy they pay to dress up like the Joker at Six Flags, which is just bizarre. You know, that has to be one of the jobs Trump created. He's like, well, that's actually the entire plan is we're going Joker in every establishment. So Six Flags Joker, Best Buy Joker, there'll be a Joker at the bank, there'll be a Joker in every classroom. He creates a new job in every type of building. There's Jokers everywhere. Yeah, I saw it. I forgot that Six Flags had a theme, and then I just saw a man dressed like the Joker. I mean, if you saw that in like Radio Shack, you'd be like, there's an active shooter situation. Somebody needs a SWAT team here immediately to kill this man. And that's not hyperbole either, that fucking happened. That literally happened. There was a guy that thought he was the Joker and killed a bunch of people. James Holmes. That fucking shooting blew my mind. It was insane. It was literally insane, you know? Because we have a lot of shootings, but, most of them are just political. And they happen, and people immediately blame mental illness, which is now my identity. So, if you do that, I'll get you fired. I'll figure out where you work and I'll have you fired if you say it's mental illness. And people do that because they don't want to accept that politics would drive somebody to kill a bunch of people, but unfortunately it does. It's like it happens all the fucking time, you know? Like ISIS has been relatively chill lately, but you know, they do it. You know, there was that MRA guy or this thing in like Charlottesville. It's just, you know, it's mostly political. But James Holmes was a guy that thought he was the Joker. And it's like, okay, that's mental illness. Definitely mental illness that did that one. But what was so interesting about it is that he did it because he thought he was the Joker. And then they published his mugshot. And you looked at it and you knew immediately which Joker he thought he was. It's the Heath Ledger Joker, right? The best Joker, arguably, right? But he was mentally ill. So he could have very easily thought that he was a different Joker. We were this close to living in a world where somebody walked into a movie theater and went, "Bad news, folks, the movie's canceled. Tonight's entertainment is being put on hiatus. They got an AR-15 and smoke bombs for you." And then the police would have to explain to those families that their relatives were killed by a man who thought he was Jack Nicholson. And then guns would be illegal today. That would have done it. We would have won that battle. Mental illness almost saved us. I do think guns should be illegal. Mainly because I haven't heard an argument for guns that isn't just a lie. And I don't mean that it doesn't work, I mean it's just you're lying, you know? Like, I need this for protection. It's like, no, just say it's cool. Stop fucking lying, you just like it because it's cool. It's why fireworks should be legal, right? It'd be like if you had a monster truck, you're like, well, you know, it's practical, the giant tires are better for fuel economy, and God forbid anyone got in my way, I could fucking kill him. You know? And it's the same thing, right? Just like, and then the Constitution, I guess, but I don't really give a shit about the Constitution. Mainly because it's written in cursive. What the fuck is that? I have no respect for cursive. What is this, a love letter from a third grader? I don't want it. Get rid of it. It's also, too, it was like, you know, put together kind of quickly, because we had a government. It was Britain, it was the government, and then we got rid of the government, and they're like, fuck, I guess we need a government, right? So they put the Constitution together. In a lot of ways, it feels like the Constitution is kind of like a really shitty tattoo that America got on the day it turned 18. You know what I mean? They're like, fuck you, Mom and Dad, we're out of the house. What are the rules? We can say whatever we want. We can have parties all the time. Holy shit, what if we got guns? And that's just the founding document, I guess. This outdated piece of shit, written by people covered in buckles that own slaves. Doesn't make sense to you. There's one of the amendments says you don't have to let soldiers in your house if you don't want to. It's 2018. Nobody owns a house. Nobody has a house. Nobody owns anything. It's just two rich people that own everything. I really get that too. The people that just love the founding fathers. You know? Just like, I used to go do this Fox News show, and it's just always people like, if I could just suck Thomas Jefferson's dick, if I could just put the tip of his dick in my mouth, I would die free. Just the way they adore the founding fathers. And it's, you know, I think it's because we don't have heroes anymore. There's no modern heroes. Nobody you can really look up to. If you have them for a second, they get taken away from us, you know? Like Harvey Weinstein. Everybody adored that guy. Everybody wanted to be him. And he let us down. I don't know. I read a story about a hero pretty recently. There's a story out of Allentown, Pennsylvania. You from there? It's a shithole, huh? Real fucked up place. Real bad place. Which I only know of because of Billy Joel. Billy Joel told me that. Billy Joel wrote a song about Allentown that's mostly about how it's a fucked up place. Which is, I don't get Billy Joel. I don't understand why he's embraced like he's just this beloved icon. Because all of his songs is just, he's like, I'm a poor piece of shit and I'm an idiot. And poor people are like, oh, he's right, I am an idiot. This is great, right? We're supposed to pretend like he's not like a Long Island motorcycle millionaire, right? He's just appropriating class, which you can do, but you can't do that with race, right? Billy Joel couldn't do a song where he's like, I'm the Chinese guy that built the railroad. You'd be like, this is not acceptable. But he's like, I'm a carpenter and I beat my daughter. And the carpenter's like, listen to this. And his daughter's like wiping the tears out of her eyes. They're like, let's go get tickets to see him at the Garden. You know? And people love him. Yeah. But Billy Joel wrote a song about Allentown, Pennsylvania. And I read a story out of Allentown, Pennsylvania. And those are my only 2 points of reference for Allentown, Pennsylvania. The story about a man in Allentown, Pennsylvania who was caught with 58 terabytes, and I don't need to finish that sentence, right? You all know exactly where that's going. Nobody's like, what was it, Wikipedia pages? Did he learn too much? Was it the world's smartest man? And they had to arrest him for thinking too much? 58 terabytes. That is so much child pornography. It's so much. And I know you hear 58 terabytes of child pornography and you focus on the child pornography part, but really consider the 58 terabytes. That's such a huge number. That's like, if you have a kid, he's in there. He's gotta be in there. You think you're the family. You're the family that escaped the wrath of Allentown. But he's not in that treasure trove. Don't be so sure. That's insane. First of all, I'm still learning terabyte. I'm still on gigabyte. I guess terabyte means scary gigabyte because it's filled with child porn. But 58, that's an astronomical number, right? That's the kind of number you would need Neil deGrasse Tyson to explain to you. By being like, this golf ball is the sun, and this beach ball is 58 terabytes of child pornography. Don't you love science? Isn't science great? What it can teach us? The only time you should ever hear 58 terabytes of child pornography is if you opened a Snapple and under the cap it said, did you know there's 58 terabytes of child pornography in the world? And then you say to yourself, there's no way that's true. I'm going to find out and be the hero of Allentown. And that's what that man did. Because he's a hero, a kind of hero, you know? Because you can't deny your essential truth, right? If you're going to be a pedophile, yeah, that's pretty fucked up. But if you wake up in the morning and you say, I'm going to be the best goddamn pedophile this world has ever seen, then you're a hero, because you took a weakness and you turned it into a strength. Right? And they had the audacity to say they caught that man. No, you went to his house. You didn't have to catch anything. He's proud of who he is. We're all on the same page, let him go. Let that guy go. You know, it's like, you go to a burger restaurant, you order the novelty 15-pound hamburger, you're like, sir, that's just gonna kill you. If you eat it, they don't charge you. They name it after you and put your picture on the wall. And that's how it should work. With downloading all of the child pornography. They put his picture on the wall and then they name a sandwich after him at Subway, I guess is probably really turning his weakness into his strength. I'd like to imagine him at like a job interview at like Trader Joe's. And they're like, okay, what's your greatest weakness? And he pulls out a thumb drive and he's like, you got a laptop? And you check this shit out? So horrifying. What the fuck is Subway doing? How are they still in business? Why are they trying to continue having a bid? Because they have ads again now, and the ads are all just like, so how you guys doing? You know? What's new with you? You want a sandwich? Like, we remember! Everyone remembers. What happened? Get the fuck out of the strip mall. Making the Radio Shack uncomfortable. Subway Jared was an interesting story. It was, right? Because that happened and we all had the same reaction, you know? No! Not Jared! Not beloved Subway Jared, right? And then they publish this picture, and you're like, oh, of course. Of course he's a child molester, right? He's right there the whole time, under our noses. Like the Kaiser Soze of molestation. You know? Which is now also Kaiser Soze. They got him into I don't want to defend what Kevin Spacey did. I think that would be the wrong move. But I did read that he was harassing production assistants on the set of House of Cards, which, if you know who production assistants are, that's just, I mean, it's pretty fun. It's a funny group of people. Because it's always just a rich guy's son with a fake job. That's who production assistants are, you know? It's always a kid and his dad's like, Benjamin, if you take the labels off these water bottles, and I know what I'm doing, but that's always what that guy sounds like. So it's accurate. And then this kid's like, oh boy, I get to bring peanut M&Ms to Kevin Spacey. And Kevin Spacey's like, shut the door, Benjamin. You want to learn how to act, Benjamin, right? And again, horrific that it would happen to anybody. Horrible, but if it's happening to a rich guy's son, it's like maybe there's some justice in this world. Just a little bit for us Bernie Sanders folks, you know? That's what I understood of his campaign. We all get brain pills and we get to rape the children of the rich. Right, I think. I'm sorry. Sorry, I feel like I go too hard with that sometimes. But you couldn't do rape jokes for, I don't know, like 6-7 months. That was pretty hard for me. I feel like a groundhog, you know? And it's like, here. You say rape yet? No? Rape? Okay, 3 more months? You good? Subway Jared was an interesting lesson. Not for us regular sex people, but for brands. You know, it was a lesson for brands. And that lesson is always go fictional mascot. Right? Just draw a fucking cartoon character. Don't put a human being in charge of your logo. You can't do that. You turn somebody into a brand. You can't expect a man to hold up those embarrassing pants for 15 years. Be like, look how disgusting I used to be. Now I'm a different kind of disgusting, a whore for a sandwich restaurant. And expect him to not molest at some point. That's the end of that road every time. Case in point, try to pick a fictional mascot that wouldn't be a molester if they existed. You can't do it. It doesn't exist. Ronald McDonald? Wrong. You would be in jail. Even ones you don't think about, like the Pep Boys. Pull them into your mind for a second. Think about the Pep Boys. Visualize them. Now ask yourself, who do they fuck? Who do those men fuck? There's giant balloon heads, children's bodies. One of them has glasses you can't see through. That's a telltale sign of a molester. Fogged up glasses, like he just walked out of a daycare center in the middle of winter. I think that one's name is Zippy. He's the ringleader. Captain Crunch is probably the worst of all of them, right? Weird 4-foot-tall man with glued-on eyebrows. He's got fake eyebrows that are on his hat. That's how far removed he is from normal human emotion. He's like, I gotta get some eyebrows so I stop scaring these kids. Where do they go? I think all the way up here. That's what, you think he's what, a proud naval veteran? No, that's a Scientology out there. Yeah, he only has the boat so he can go out of international waters and do whatever he wants. Only reason. You wanna know why kids won't tell their parents why they eat Apple Jacks even though they don't taste like apples? It's because Tony the Tiger threatened to murder them. And you gotta listen to him. He's an 8-foot-tall tiger that's almost naked, but not completely. He's got a handkerchief on with his name on it, which is so much worse than completely naked. If you went outside right now and there was a nude man, you'd be like, that poor nude man lost all of his clothes. Probably to a gust of wind. Can we help him? But if you had a handkerchief on with his name on it, you'd be like, we gotta get the fuck away from this guy. Before he tries to put frosted flakes in my ass. Falling down before. I love all those cereals. You know? They're great. I love children's food in general. Mostly because of the commercials. So I love the commercials because they always have to introduce new flavors with some sort of horrific workplace accident. It's the go-to ad. I don't understand why every ad for those companies, it's like, there was an explosion at the Fruit Roll-Ups factory. It's like, holy shit, is everyone okay? They're like, no, 4 men are dead, and chocolate and strawberry are finally together. And you're like, what the fuck? These were union men with families. Like, that's nothing. Last week, the green M&M was raped by a pretzel. You did what happened at work? It was the 9/11 of sprinkles. Yeah. I got a friend that's a 9/11 conspiracy theorist. That's fun that people are still doing that. That's like being into like VHS tape collecting at this point. Still trying to sell people on 9, and he's an idiot too. He tries to prove it to you and goes, man, I can fucking prove it actually. Watch this, and he'll pull out like a $20 bill, right? And he'll start folding it up. People do this. He like folds up the bill, and it's like, first of all, where did you even get $20? You know? Your parents should just be writing the rent check directly to the landlord. You shouldn't be involved in the process. He like folds up the bill and he shows it to you, and he's like, doesn't it look like the towers? And it's like, no, it doesn't. Also, what do you think happened? That the government was like, okay, the whole plan's ready to go. Everybody's on board. There's only one step left. The clues. Yep. We gotta get clues out there. So we're gonna have the Treasury team up with Mad Magazine to create a folder to tip off idiots. That's the plan. And so guys like you are like, look man, it's the Illuminati. And you're like, actually it's origami. It's some paper folding art. I like fucked with him too. I took the bill away from him, unfolded it, folded it back into a paper airplane, and just blew his mind forever, right? Like, looked familiar, he's like, what the fuck, how did you do that? How'd you come up with that? Anyways. I met a Holocaust denier recently. Yeah, that's a weird one. I don't know if met's the right word. I know a Holocaust, it's my mom. So, I don't know how to explain our relationship, but it sums it up. Holocaust denial is funny, because it's like, the people that do it they're always trying to sell it as if they're not anti-Semites. It's just like, no, I just care about this one part of history. You know, it just doesn't make sense to me. All these pictures are in black and white, you know, 6 million right on the nose, no pun intended, but like that just seems weird with everything number. But then it's like, yeah, but you also have a swastika tattoo. They're like, that's just a coincidence. You know? So they're always just doing it to piss off Jewish people. That's the only reason to deny the Holocaust. But it's like, you could piss them off so much more if you just pretended like you've never heard of the Holocaust. That's a lot worse. That means like the world is fucking up, not you, right? Just whenever they bring it up, they'd be like, whoa, the Holo what? That fantasy room from Star Trek? No, what are you talking about? That's crazy. No, I've never heard of this. Hold on. Hitler the painter? Did that. I'm trying to be a better guy. I am. I really am. I've come full circle on microaggressions. I guess that was a thing at the stop. Which microaggressions, I learned that word the same time I learned the word micropenis, so they're kind of just linked in my head. And micropenis, interestingly enough, I learned about through an article about Hitler that was like came out like 2 years ago. It was like Hitler had a micropenis, which I read initially as micropenis. I thought it was like an island in Greece. But yeah, they said Hitler had a micropenis in the article, and that's like such a funny thing to publish because it's like, what is the tone of that supposed to be? It's about, forget everything you thought you knew about Big Dick Hitler. Yeah, I got bad news for you. It turns out he wasn't so cool after all. Okay? But I don't know why you're publishing it, because it's like, you're not going to hurt Hitler's feelings in that story, right? He's dead. Everyone knows he died in Argentina in 1973. You're not hurting Hitler's feelings. You're just singling out the most insecure group of men in the world and being like, guys, big news. They're like, is it a cure? They're like, no, you're Hitler now also. You're just also Hitler. But I guess it makes sense that Hitler had a micro penis, right? Makes the Holocaust make sense, for sure. You know? Because imagine, you're Hitler, and you have the world's worst dick. Just the worst dick in the world. This is the 30s, dude. There's no Reddit. You can't find a community of these guys. They're like, it's women's fault. You know, you got nothing. You just gotta sit there with that shitty dick. And then you find out there's a group of people out in the world just cutting off parts of their dick and throwing it away. It's like, there's too much dick. Let's get rid of some of it. You would do a Holocaust? You would absolutely do a Holocaust. You could not promise yourself you wouldn't. Just fuck a mile in another man's dick before you judge him. That's all I'm saying. Yes. Yeah, I'm trying to stop doing microaggressions. One I was doing, anytime I go get Chinese food, I read the fortune in my head in kind of like a racist Confucius voice. Which my justification for it was like, that's how it comes true, right? You don't tell somebody your birthday wish, you don't read the fortune in a boring white guy voice. My friend, she was like, that's racist, you can't do that. And I was like, why? You know, it's happening in my head. Sure, I repeat it, the room's full of people, but the initial act is just happening in my head. And if something happens in your head, is that bad, right? Because if we're going on that metric, then if it's happening just in your head, it's bad, then I am the world's worst sex attacker, right? The horrific things I've done to everyone I've ever met. Every man, woman, and if you thought I was going to say child, that's in your head. So, maybe let me fucking therapy instead of turning me into a molester. But I don't know, I don't think I'm racist because I've never held any kind of disdain or prejudice or hatred in my heart for any group of people besides Italian Americans. That's it, you know? And I'm not saying that, you know, they deserve it, obviously. They're just like kind of a greasy, shifty people that you can't trust. But I'll be honest with you, I have a respect for them now. Because Italian Americans are the only group left in America you can just be openly racist towards and no one gives a shit. Just say whatever you want about WASP. Nobody's gonna get you fired. Nobody. They're not writing a blog like, what did they say about Anthony? It's not happening. Just fucking put them on blast. No one cares. And it's like, we're not going to get rid of racism entirely. You can't do it, you know? We tried to, we ended up in this reactionary situation we're in now, right? So if you can't get rid of whatever vestiges of racism there are, let's just funnel all of them into one group of people. Let's just put it all on the Italians. Somebody needs to bear that cross. They love wearing them so much, so let them have it. You guys were a lot of fun. Thanks. Justin, Brad, good night.
It's Mullen, everybody. Let them hear it, you know. Thank you guys for coming out. Remember to take your waistbands and, go live your fucking life and enjoy it.